Four games in the Premier League on Saturday. Aston Villa narrowing the gap at the top in the early game with victory over Nottingham Forest. And Arsenal re-establishing a healthy lead at the top with a 3-2 win at Bournemouth. To discuss that game, it's Mark, it's Sam, it's Stevie. And we'll start with you, Stevie. And Arsenal with a 3-2 win, having gone a goal down, but it was comfortable for a long spell. Yeah. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, I think if you just see the scoreline, you'll think this was a little tight. But in all honesty, it wasn't, and it probably shouldn't have been. An incredible first goal for Bournemouth. Gabriel. It's hard to figure out whether he saw Evan Nielsen or not, but he's picked him out anyway, and he's basically rolled it into an empty net. I mean, completely and utterly against the run of play. Arsenal totally dominating the game. And actually from there, they went on to totally dominate again, got themselves 3-1 up. The game looked over. And then just from nowhere again, Bournemouth get a second. And all of a sudden, with 15 minutes to go, you're thinking maybe. But the truth is, Arsenal were streets ahead. Shouldn't have won by one goal. And in the end, the most important thing for them, another 3 points.
Sam, I think the two main protagonists in this one, Stevie's mentioned them both, Gabriel and Declan Rice, who, forget the fact he scored 2 goals, because we'll get onto that for a second. Gabriel's made the mistake. The ball's ended up in the back of the net from Evan Nielsen. First person over to Gabriel is Declan Rice. And forget about it. It's done. Move on. 6 minutes later, Gabriel scores and we're back and we're tied.
Yeah, absolutely. Arsenal did very well to respond to that very, very quickly, and Gabriel did very well to respond to that very quickly, because you can see why Rice had to go over and try and console him and sort of tap him on the head a little bit, because Gabriel looked genuinely distraught at what he'd done, and no surprise really, because it was a genuinely baffling error. Why he's tried to play that pass across his body, why he's tried to move the ball on so quickly without checking, I'm not sure either, because he wasn't under tons of pressure. There wasn't any impetus in the game. There wasn't any need for him to move the ball quickly. Arsenal weren't struggling with that. I just don't know what he was doing. But anyway, he managed to make amends, as he often does. I'm struggling to think of a centre-back who scores quite as many goals as this, beyond maybe going back to John Terry. It's absolutely remarkable, the impact that he's able to have in the final third and in the opposition penalty box, along with being one of the best actual defenders in the league as well. I mean, incredible stuff. But on to Rice. Rice was, well, there were questions over whether he'd play because he missed the game against Villa injured. He's obviously been a bit beat up over the last month or so. What a performance. In the first half, maybe I thought, is he a bit sluggish? Is he not quite looking himself? Wow. Second half just takes it away from Bournemouth, covers almost every blade of grass. Just an incredible showing all across the pitch. He was taking set pieces. He was popping up and scoring goals. He was defending set pieces. He was sweeping around the back of Saliba and Gabriel and picking up loose balls and restarting play by handing it over to Zubimendi. Just remarkable. And one of those players that I think as the game goes on just seems to get faster and faster and better. Maybe it's because the others tire, but he doesn't. But it feels like he speeds up over the course of 90 minutes and just gets quicker and better and stronger. And you saw that towards the end of the game.
He got his first of 2 goals, Stevie, in 54 minutes. As someone that was very successful with the Liverpool side you played in the 80s, what is it about teams who just don't appear to panic when things don't go their way because they find a way? What happens there?
Well, it's a collective togetherness, basically, of confidence and understanding when they look around the field that they can rely on the guy standing next to them. I mean, that's what it is. That's why you don't panic, because when things go against you, you have a look around and you go, well, I can rely on him. Everybody knows that, okay, we've had a bit of a setback, but we've still got plenty of time. We're better than this side. We've dominated the game already, so we just need to get back to that, but create some chances and take them. So yeah, it's a collective belief in the guy, or all the guys around you, and you saw that today. I mean, as you said, no panic. I mean, you talk about composure in the situation. You talk about composure on Declan Rice's 2 goals. I mean, that's composure personified. Knows where the gap is, knows what it is, calms down, doesn't panic, just strokes it nicely into the gap. So yeah, this is a team that is composed, and you saw it. There's no panic when they go behind.
Sam, Stevie's just spoken about trusting your teammates. The manager trusts his squad because after Declan Rice makes it 2-1 in the 54th minute, but 10, 12 minutes later, he brings on 3 subs that actually strengthen his lineup, don't weaken it in Bukayo Saka, Leandro Trossard, and Gabriel Jesus. Is this the strongest squad that Arsenal have had and the best squad that they have had as far as mounting a title challenge and potentially winning it under Arteta?
100%. Yeah, I mean, they made big moves over the course of the summer to make sure that they are in this position. And I think of all the teams in the Premier League, they've probably suffered with injuries, arguably the worst over the course of the first 20 weeks. And they've managed to weather that storm. So that's proof that the squad, even though it has been a bit, cutting it fine here and there, the squad has been able to respond to the injury issues that have basically sunk them in the last 2 to 3 years. So there was a year where Saliba went down and the title was gone. That's no longer going to happen because they have appropriate backups. Now, recently they've been missing fullbacks. Declan Rice missed the Villa game. They've been able to bring Gabriel Jesus back in. They were able to put Bukayo Saka on the bench today. I mean, that is not a luxury that Arsenal have realistically had ever since Bukayo Saka actually got into the team, for him to be able to sit out a game like this. Because, yeah, Bournemouth, all right, they haven't won in 10 games. They're on the slide, fine. So they give you a tough game. And for periods of this game, they pressed Arsenal. They pressed them really well, and they made it difficult for them. And Arsenal didn't take a shot for about a 40-minute span in this game because Bournemouth made it tough. Now, over the course of 90 minutes, the quality of Arsenal is going to prevail, especially if you get to bring on a brand new front three of Trossard, Jesus, and Saka with about half an hour to go. So that is credit to Arsenal in terms of squad building, and credit to them, I think, probably for just knowing exactly what was required this season to be able to cope and to be able to compete.
Stevie, I was looking at Arsenal's results this season, and the 2 most common results are 1-0 and 2-0. But recently, they're 4 games without a clean sheet. However, they've always scored at least 1 more goal than their opponents in the Premier League in that spell. Granted, on penalties, they beat Crystal Palace. How big of a concern is it for others that you may be thinking, well, we can have a go at Arsenal now because they're starting to concede, but they're leaving the door open at the other end and Arsenal are just scoring more goals?
Well, I think, we've really got to the stage in the season where everybody knows everything about everybody. And so when you're playing against Arsenal or you're watching Arsenal, you're struggling to find the chinks in the armour. And yes, because they were so incredibly tight at the start of the season, it kind of seems as though they're letting some goals in. But the honest truth is that regardless of whether they do or they don't, they have enough in terms of dominating games, creating chances and scoring goals that they're always just, if it needs be, they're always just going to be ahead of the opposition. And that's kind of what you've been saying, regardless of winning 4-0 and 5-0 that we saw a team like City doing 4 and 5 years ago. This Arsenal side knows that the only thing that matters is to finish the game ahead of your opponent. And if it has to be 1-0 or if it has to be 3-2 like today, they know that they're going to do that. And the biggest problem that the opposition has, regardless, is they know that as well. And that's a huge psychological advantage that Arsenal have against most sides when they step on the field.
From what we've seen this season, Stevie, who's the best team in the Premier League at their best, Arsenal or Manchester City?
Oh, I think Arsenal. If you were to say to me, right, you can pull the jersey on one of these 2 teams tomorrow, I would say I'd like to pull the Arsenal jersey on. I think Arsenal, from back to front, are real strong, real solid, have ability. They can create. I mean, Odegaard, over the last 2 or 3 games, since he came back from injury, has looked like the Odegaard of a couple of seasons ago. Again, another fantastic little ball in behind that Saka pulled back for Declan Rice. So yeah, for me, every which way you look at it. In fact, I would go as far to say as well, I would have Raya over Donnarumma in goals I mean, as good as Donnarumma is, as good as he's been, I still think Raya is he rarely gets a mention. He got a mention last week because he made an incredible save. But generally, he is top notch. He's great with his feet. He always seems to be in the right position to make a save. The answer to your question is Arsenal.
Bearing that in mind, Sam, what do Arsenal do better than everyone else then?
So I think the landscape of the Premier League at the moment, tactically, it's a very physical place, more so than I think a couple of years ago. I think there's a lot of man-to-man marking, and there's a lot of teams that are trying to become physically overbearing and assert themselves on the others. We've sort of left behind the idea of we need 70% of the ball. I think even Pep Guardiola has left behind the idea that you can defend with the ball for 15 to 20 minutes. He's talking about how his team simply have to be able to suffer without the ball. They have to be able to defend deep in their box. They have to be able to go 10 minutes without any kind of control. He's talking about all these things. Arsenal do all of these things better than anyone else. So I think they are perfectly suited to the modern landscape of the Premier League and what the Premier League has become tactically on a week-to-week basis. They are so physical. They are so hard to play against. They have the best defence. The midfield is remarkable. And of course, the depth is there too.
It's amazing when you think they've only kept 2 clean sheets in the Premier League in their last 10 games. The problem for everybody else is they're scoring more goals, and a few of the times a lot more goals than the opposition. Next up for Arsenal is Liverpool. Stevie, are you worried for your boys, or is that a good fixture for Liverpool to go there away from Anfield? I'm trying to do my best here for you.
I know it's not a good fixture, no. It's not a good fixture for Liverpool. Listen, to put it really in plain speaking, you know exactly what you're going to get from Arsenal. You do not have a clue what you're going to get from Liverpool. I mean, it's just there's such a gap between where the two sides are right now that any Liverpool fan in their right mind has got to be a little worried at what could possibly happen. So, look, they can spank Aston Villa 4-1 at home. They can absolutely do that and more to a Liverpool side right now who look a little blunt going forward and a little open at the back. So yeah, it's not a game that certainly fans of Liverpool are going to relish. Maybe Arne Slot is. Maybe Arne Slot thinks that this is the type of game that his team can be galvanised together and do things that they haven't been doing all season. But the odds are get way against that. And so yeah, you'd have to be a little scared. Let's be honest.
Sam, 26th of October. That was the last time Bournemouth won in the Premier League. 11 games now without victory. They're down in 15th. Is this damaging Iraola's job prospects for his next role, wherever that may be?
I mean, possibly, judging by the league table, but unless I'm mistaken, I think they're only 6 points off 7th or 8th here. So they're still kind of like the strange nature of the Premier League right now is that you can be sitting in that kind of place, but still be a stone's throw off a European spot. And we've seen with teams like Fulham recently that if you can pick up sort of 10 points from 4 games, you can catapult yourself into a completely different stratosphere in the Premier League table. So it is a very frustrating slide in form for Bournemouth, who had started so incredibly well. Obviously, there are parts of this whereby you lose a couple of players to injury, things like that happening. A squad like Bournemouth can't absorb injuries particularly easily. Maybe they started a little bit better than we all expected to, given all of the key losses they had over the course of the summer, and they're coming back down to earth a little bit. But in terms of what Iraola does, it hasn't really changed. They play a similar way. They put you under a lot of pressure. They like to press the ball. They like to push up the pitch and make life difficult for you and try to pounce on your mistakes. So the fact that he's staying true to his own sort of philosophy is great, I think. And the player quality in the team will rise and fall and come and go. How is he going to react to the potential transfer of Antoine Semenyo here? And how much will that hurt him? Another question to consider. But I like to think that those that are keeping an eye on Iraola as a possible managerial candidate for the future will understand that at a club like Bournemouth, it's going to be a bit like this sometimes.
How big a blow is that, Stevie? Semenyo likely to join Manchester City over the next few days. How do you replace what has been pretty much their talisman so far this season?
Well, it's huge, and it couldn't come at a worse time when they're on such a bad run. I mean, it really is a bit of a calamity for them. He's the one guy right now, even on this run, that looks as though he's capable of producing something. And so if you're going to lose him as well, I mean, this is just a case of, Bournemouth, as great as they've been in terms of the recruitment, it has to run out at some stage. And it seems and it feels as though it's running out right now. They got the guts ripped out of them at the start of the end of last season. Started the season, I mean, it was such a surprise how good they were at the beginning of the season. But as I said, it's caught up with them. And this Semenyo, if he does go, like everybody says he is, then it's just another hammer blow. And I guess really at the end of the day, the good thing for Bournemouth is the bottom three teams right now are absolutely awful. And as bad as Bournemouth have been, and possibly could be for the rest of the season, they may be lucky in the fact that there are three worse teams than them right now.
That's a good point. I mean, Leeds and Forest below them, but as you mentioned, underneath them, West Ham, Burnley and Wolves, who beat West Ham 3-0 today. The problem, Sam, that Bournemouth have isn't goal scoring, because no one scored more goals than them in the bottom half of the table, but only Wolves and West Ham have conceded more than them. So you take Semenyo out of that, if you don't add defensive and reinforcements, there's no concern, is there, that they're looking over their shoulder at what's below them?
For now, I don't think so. And we have to remember as well that if you are given £65 million on January the 3rd or 4th, then hey, you get the opportunity to go and spend a little bit of that on reinforcements. So it's not.
Yeah, but the cost goes up of those reinforcements because people know you've got money.
Oh, of course, yeah. January's a nightmare for this stuff, isn't it? Particularly for strikers or goal scorers. But you'd think they'll do something. The gap between themselves and the bottom three is big enough, but it's probably not big enough to not do anything at all with this money. So if they can spend it wisely, great. I will say though, I watched West Ham earlier. Stevie was talking earlier about having confidence in the man next to you and the ability to bounce back. I mean, Jared Bowen's face when that goal goes in after 4 minutes, that is not a man who is confident in the man next to him to be able to turn this around. That's a man who's looking at it and going, well, that's that one done. Maybe we'll plan for next week. That's how bad it is down there. Bournemouth are nowhere near this level of crisis of confidence. Absolutely nowhere near it. So there's a big old gap there to consider.
Last one for you, Stevie. Our stats team have come up with this one. Outside of the top 7 in the Premier League, Arsenal have played 13 and won 13. If that continues, it's going to have to be the teams around Arsenal that stop them from winning the league. Apart from Manchester City, who's best placed to do that?
To stop them?
Just to take points off them.
No, I don't see anybody stopping Arsenal. I really don't. Villa's bounced back well with a good win today, but I don't see them lasting the course. So after City, I don't see anybody able to stop Arsenal. To me, it really is a 2-horse race, and so good luck to the chasing pack. Arsenal looks strong at the top of the table. All those little questions that we had slowly but surely seem to be disappearing, and they look like the real deal. They look like Premier League champions. So yeah, it's City or nobody in my opinion.
6 more games tomorrow, including Manchester City against Chelsea, but it's Arsenal with a 6-point lead so far to begin the new year. Catch them if you can. Bye for now.